As a Navy chief preparing to retire after 20 years of service, me and my family are taking on a new mission, building our first homestead in Alabama. Follow along as we turn 45 acres into the life we've always dreamed of. We're going to be doing a series about documenting our homestead search and our journey with getting it ready. So today we're going to talk about finding not just 45 acres, but the right 45 acres, our 45 acres. This is the land we've always dreamed of, but finding it was not easy. What's going on, everybody? My name is Mark. Today's video, we're going to start a series called In the Beginning. We're going to talk about how we looked for our land, what we wanted in our land, how we found our land, and some challenges that we had along the way. So I've been in the Navy for over 18 and a half years. And as I'm getting ready to retire, I had to think about where exactly I wanted to have my family continue our life at, where we're gonna settle down at after the military is over. And homesteading really popped up because I came across it on YouTube and I saw the open land, I saw the trees, nature, clean air, all that good stuff, and I wanted that for my family. So on our homestead, I envision us having animals, um, growing different vegetables, having fruit trees, having a pond with fish, and just having a big open area that we could call our own. So let's talk about the search, the ups and downs, and what led to us making the final decision to purchase our 45 acres. So while searching for our land, we didn't know exactly how much land we wanted. We wanted a big area. We wanted something that was big enough where you didn't have to necessarily see your neighbors. So I'm from Cleveland. I grew up in a city. So I didn't really know what 10, 20, 30 acres looked like. All I knew was people said a football field was about the same size as an acre. So I tried to envision a whole bunch of football fields next to each other. So when we started looking for land, I looked on Facebook, I looked on landwatch.com, I looked on any kind of real estate site that you could find land on. I think I even looked on Zillow for some. But what we actually found our land on was landwatch.com. So a couple of things that we wanted to be incorporated with our land that we were looking for was we wanted a wooded area. We wanted cleared out area that was flat, maybe that was already had farmland or something on it. We wanted a pond. We wanted a existing road system. We wanted to have electricity readily available. We wanted a well, and we also wanted road frontage. And I think that's about it. We also wanted to have an existing structure on the property, maybe like a pole barn or like a small barn, something like that, maybe some kind of outbuilding that was already available for us to use. So as you look for land, you'll come across all different kinds of pieces of property. Um, One common thing that I found that kind of bugged me about properties was the shape of properties. I didn't really want a narrow, long lot. I didn't want to have a weird shape that maybe was like concave or maybe shaped in an L or a T or something like that. I wanted one piece that was as close to a circle, square, anything like that, some kind of shape like that. One other thing that I found while looking for land that turned out to be an issue for different pieces of property was if it had wetlands on it. So if you have a wetland, you can't build on it. It's got protection in that specific area and you can't disturb it. You can't do anything to it. You have to leave it as it is. So if you find a good piece of property and you see a whole bunch of wetland symbols all over it, you just stay away from it unless it's big enough that there's an area that doesn't have wetland on it that you could build from. Another piece of information that I found out was the difference between being in the city limits and being outside of the city limits when you come across a piece of property. There's certain things and certain rules that you have to follow while inside of the city limits, while you have a little bit more freedom as far as permitting and getting permission to do things if you're outside of the city limits. So when we came across the piece of property that we eventually bought, like I said earlier, we didn't know exactly how much land we wanted to buy. So when we came across a piece of property, it was actually advertised as 30 acres and 60 acres. So I came across it on landwatch.com. Like I said earlier, that's where we found it at. And we went to go take a look at it. And It was pretty nice, pretty nice. So my first impression when we got to the property and start to go look around and check things out was, man, this is a lot of trees. There's a lot of space. It was kind of hilly a little bit. It just wasn't all flat. It had nice character to it. It had a nice little seasonal stream on it. There was a big um, 7 acre opening that was a field that had a fully grown mature pecan tree that was kind of off to the side. Um, the big flat area was about 7 acres, 7 or 8 acres. Had a couple roads that were laid out inside of it, so you can drive around pretty much both sides of the property. It was a good shape. It's almost like a square, but it's got like a kind of like a little triangle that sticks out on north side. But everything that we saw was pretty good. We saw some deer in the field the first time we went out there. I think it was about 4 or 5 deer the first day we went there. We saw some turnips that were growing in the field. We also saw that there was a well that was already on the property when we first got there. It wasn't in use, but we thought that um, maybe we could get somebody to come out and come check it out. We'll talk more about that a different time. But there was also a home site there. There was some big steps that led to nowhere, but we saw that there's a house that used to sit up there, and that was pretty cool seeing that somebody had already lived up there. So our journey and search for our land wasn't exactly fast. We took our time for it with it. We searched around. We viewed a whole bunch of properties online until we determined that that was the one that we wanted. We visited a couple of them, but they just didn't fit as well with what we saw for ourselves in the future with the 45 acres that we purchased. So how we wound up buying the 45 acres was that the seller had the two postings that I talked about. He had either 60 acres or 30. And when we were there, he actually drove around with us with the realtor, and he let us know. He said, "Well, I'm not really stuck on selling either 30 or 60. It doesn't matter. However much you want to buy, that will be fine with me." He owned a total of 106 acres, so he just wanted a couple deer plots that he had set up to that was closer to where his house was that he didn't want to sell. So I think he said we could buy up to like 80 acres if we wanted. So we walked around and we saw where it was surveyed out for 30 acres and for 60 acres. And we just walked around and saw what the difference is of how much more land it would look like if we got the 60. So we should pretty much just went down the middle, saw what that looked like, went back to the 30, checked out the 60, and we just decided to just split it down the middle and go ahead and get 45 acres. And when we proposed that to him, he was pretty good with it. He was happy with it. He let us know that there would be no issues with us buying the 45, and if we wanted to buy more later, or if we wanted to perhaps buy the rest later, just talk to him and we could see where things went then. While looking for land, we have ideas about what we'd like to see on our land, how it has to be situated. We see things on TV, maybe YouTube, maybe how people have theirs developed. But the great thing about buying raw, undisturbed land is that you can mold it, make it whatever you want it to be, make it suit your needs. You don't have any pre-existing layout that you have to be concerned with beside what nature already has. So that's the great thing about what we want to do with our land is we can put things where we want them, and we can pretty much have the freedom to make our land our own and to make it how we want it to be and to situate everything as we think it should be, not how someone else determined it to be before we got there. Looking back at everything we went through and the search ultimately to find where we bought our land at, we're excited to continue on that journey and to make that homestead and that land our own. So make sure you subscribe so you can follow along if you want to check us out. The next episode is going to be about designing and planning the land, so the layout and how things are going to be situated. And just let us know in the comments below what you think about our land or what your personal journey was with looking for land or what you found.